I am Dr. Sophia Ellis, a psychologist and paranormal investigator. I'm writing this account as a last resort, hoping someone will understand what's happening to me. I've always been skeptical of the paranormal, but what I've experienced in my own home has shaken me to the core. It started with small things: doors creaking open, faint whispers in the night, and an eerie feeling of being watched. I dismissed it as stress or fatigue, but soon, the occurrences grew more intense and frequent. I began to feel a malevolent presence, always lurking just out of sight. I'd see shadowy figures darting around corners, and my research equipment would capture disembodied voices. One night, I woke up to find a dark figure standing in my bedroom doorway. Its eyes glowed with an otherworldly light, and I felt an icy presence wash over me. I've tried to investigate, but the more I dig, the more I read.
I am Dr. Brandon Lee, a paranormal investigator and colleague of Sophia's. I stumbled upon Sophia's cryptic account while sorting through her research files after her sudden disappearance. Her words sent chills down my spine. I had always known Sophia to be a rational and skeptical person, so her descriptions of paranormal activity shook me. Determined to uncover what happened to Sophia, I began to investigate her claims. I reviewed her research, interviewed her acquaintances, and even visited her home. The eerie atmosphere and unexplained occurrences I experienced there only strengthened my resolve. As I delved deeper, I discovered a dark history surrounding Sophia's home. A tragic event had occurred there decades ago, and I suspected a connection between the past and Sophia's experiences. I became obsessed with finding Sophia and understanding the forces she faced. But the more I dug, the more I realized I was being watched too. The same malevolent presence Sophia described seemed to be closing in around me.
As Brandon dug deeper, he uncovered a tragic event that had occurred in Sophia's home over 40 years ago. A family of 4 had lived there, but one fateful night, the father, driven by madness and despair, slaughtered his family in the very rooms where Sophia had experienced the paranormal activity. The father, Malcolm, had been a reclusive and troubled man, struggling with mental health issues and a dark obsession with the occult. His actions were so heinous that the house had been left abandoned for years, its dark history and evil energies festering like an open wound. Brandon discovered that Sophia, unaware of the house's past, had moved in and begun to experience the residual trauma and malevolent forces that lingered. The presence she described was likely Malcolm's restless spirit, still consumed by darkness and anger. But Brandon's investigation also hinted at a more sinister force at play, one that had driven Malcolm to commit his atrocities. A mysterious symbol etched into the wall, a strange artifact hidden in the attic, and whispers of an ancient cult all pointed to a deeper, more malevolent presence that still lurked in the shadows. Brandon's research led him to a local expert on the occult, a reclusive old man named Jasper. Jasper revealed that the symbol was a summoning sigil, used by a cult to conjure an ancient entity known only as the Devourer. According to Jasper, Malcolm had been a member of this cult, and his actions were a twisted attempt to summon the Devourer. But something went horribly wrong, and Malcolm's family paid the ultimate price. Brandon was skeptical, but Jasper's words echoed in his mind as he returned to Sophia's house. He began to experience strange and terrifying occurrences, and the symbol seemed to be pulsing with a malevolent energy. One night, Brandon discovered a hidden room deep in the attic, containing ancient artifacts and a journal belonging to Malcolm. The entry spoke of the Devourer's power and the terrible cost of summoning it. As Brandon read the final entry, the lights flickered, and the air grew cold. He felt the Devourer's presence closing in around him. Brandon tried to flee, but the doors were sealed, and the windows refused to budge. The Devourer's presence grew stronger, its dark energy suffocating him. He stumbled through the house, desperate to escape, but every door led only to more terrors. In the kitchen, he found a message scrawled on the wall in blood. "You should not have come here." Suddenly, the lights went out, plunging him into darkness. Brandon heard footsteps, heavy and deliberate, coming from the floor above. The Devourer was coming for him. He barricaded himself in the pantry, but the door creaked open, and a cold, dead voice whispered, You will be consumed. As the darkness closed in, Brandon realized that Sophia's account had been more than just a story. It was a warning. And now, he was about to become the next chapter in the Devourer's twisted saga. As Brandon caught his breath, he heard the Devourer's footsteps outside, heavy and deliberate. The pantry door creaked under the pressure, and Brandon knew it wouldn't hold for long. Suddenly, he remembered the small window at the back of the pantry, slightly ajar. With a surge of adrenaline, Brandon squeezed through the narrow opening and found himself in a cramped, dimly lit crawl space. He began to crawl forward, his heart racing, as the Devourer's roar echoed through the pantry. Brandon knew he had to keep moving, but the crawl space seemed to stretch on forever. Brandon's hands trembled as he pulled himself forward, his knees scraping against the rough floor. The air was thick with dust, and cobwebs clung to his face. He could hear the Devourer's muffled roars, its fury echoing through the crawl space. As he rounded a corner, a sliver of light appeared ahead. Brandon's heart leapt with hope, an exit. He quickened his pace, his muscles burning with exhaustion. Suddenly, the crawl space dropped away, and Brandon found himself sliding down a narrow chute. He landed hard on a cold concrete floor, the wind knocked out of him. Groggily, he looked around, finding himself in a dimly lit basement. A single door led out, but it was locked, with no visible key. Brandon's heart sank, trapped again. The Devourer's roar echoed through the crawl space, its fury unrelenting. It smashed through the walls, tearing apart the wooden beams and sending debris crashing down. The chute Brandon slid down was now a gaping hole, and the Devourer's dark form loomed at the top. As Brandon watched in horror, the Devourer began to descend, its presence filling the basement with an unspeakable evil. The air grew colder, and the shadows seemed to writhe on the walls. Brandon backed away, his eyes fixed on the approaching terror. He knew he couldn't outrun it, his only hope was to find a place to hide. But where? The basement offered little refuge, and the Devourer would stop at nothing to claim its prey. Brandon's eyes frantically scanned the basement, searching for a place to conceal himself. The Devourer's footsteps echoed closer, its malevolent presence suffocating. He spotted a small storage room in the corner, partially hidden by a tattered curtain. Brandon sprinted towards it, his heart racing. He yanked open the creaky door and slipped inside, holding his breath. The storage room was cramped, filled with dusty boxes and forgotten relics. Brandon squeezed behind a stack of crates, holding perfectly still. The Devourer entered the basement, its dark form scanning the room. Brandon's heart skipped a beat as its gaze swept across the storage room, mere feet from his hiding spot. The Devourer paused, its attention drawn to the curtain. Brandon's breath caught in his throat as it began to move closer. Brandon held his breath, his body frozen in terror. The Devourer's gaze lingered on the curtain, as if sensing his presence. Slowly, it raised a shadowy hand, reaching for the tattered fabric. Brandon's heart raced, his mind screaming to flee. But he knew movement would betray him. He remained statue still, praying the darkness would conceal him. The Devourer's hand hesitated, its fingers twitching. Then, with an unsettling slowness, it began to pull back the curtain. Brandon's eyes locked onto the darkness, his soul shrinking from the horror. As the curtain creaked open, a sliver of dim light illuminated Henry's hiding spot. The Devourer's gaze swept across the crates, its attention mere inches from Brandon's face. Brandon's eyes remained fixed on the Devourer's gaze, his heart suspended in mid-beat. The darkness seemed to hesitate, its attention wavering. Then, in a movement so slight it was almost imperceptible, the Devourer's gaze shifted away. Brandon's breath escaped in a silent rush. He remained frozen, unsure if he'd been seen. The Devourer's attention swept across the room, its presence lingering, searching. Suddenly, its dark form moved closer to the storage room, the air growing colder. Brandon's heart skipped a beat as the Devourer's shadowy hand reached out, hovering above the crates. With an agonizing slowness, the Devourer's hand began to lower, its darkness seeping between the crates. Brandon's eyes widened, his mind screaming. Brandon's eyes were fixed on the Devourer's hand, his heart racing with terror. The darkness seemed to be seeping into the crates, searching for him. With a surge of adrenaline, Brandon pushed himself further into the shadows, his body pressed against the wall. The Devourer's hand hovered above the crates, its presence suffocating. Brandon's breath caught in his throat as the darkness began to solidify, taking the shape of fingers. They closed around the crate mere inches from his face. Brandon's mind went blank, his body frozen in fear. The Devourer's grip tightened, the crate creaking under the pressure. Then, in a movement so sudden it was like a strike of lightning, the Devourer's hand vanished. The crate crashed to the floor, splintering into pieces. Brandon's heart still racing, he peeked out from his hiding spot, wondering if the Devourer had left. But the darkness lingered, its presence waiting. Suddenly, the darkness surrounding Brandon began to take shape, forming into a recognizable figure. It was Sophia, the psychologist who had vanished. But something was terribly wrong. Her face was distorted, her skin pale, and her gaze was empty. "Sophia, what's happened to you?" Brandon tried to speak, but his voice was silenced by fear. Sophia opened her mouth, revealing a darkness that seemed to consume her from the inside. "I've come to take you with me," she whispered, her voice not her own, but an imitation of the darkness that had consumed her. Brandon tried to step back, but his feet seemed rooted to the spot. The darkness surrounding Sophia began to grow, extending towards him. Brandon's eyes were fixed on Sophia's distorted face, his mind racing with terror. He tried to step back, but his feet felt heavy, as if rooted to the spot. The darkness surrounding Sophia began to creep closer, its tendrils reaching out like ghostly fingers. With a surge of adrenaline, Brandon forced himself to move, stumbling backward into the shadows. Sophia's gaze followed him, her eyes black as coal. She began to move towards him, her pace slow and deliberate. Brandon's breath came in ragged gasps as he desperately sought an escape route. His eyes scanned the storage room, searching for a door, a window, anything. But there was nothing. Sophia's whisper seemed to echo through the room, "You can't escape me, Brandon. I'll always find you." Brandon's back hit the wall, and he knew he was trapped. The darkness closed in, Sophia's face inches from his. With a burst of adrenaline, Brandon dodged to the side, avoiding Sophia's outstretched hands. He sprinted across the storage room, his feet pounding the concrete floor. Sophia's laughter echoed through the space, a cold, mirthless sound. Brandon spotted a narrow gap between two crates and made a beeline for it. He squeezed through the opening just as Sophia reached out to grab him. Her fingers brushed against his jacket, but he managed to wriggle free. On the other side of the crates, Brandon found himself in a maze of narrow aisles and towering shelves. He ran blindly, his heart racing with fear. Sophia's footsteps echoed through the aisles, closing in on him. Suddenly, Brandon saw a glimmer of light ahead, a small door hidden behind a stack of boxes. He burst through the door and found himself in a dimly lit corridor. Brandon sprinted down the corridor, his footsteps echoing off the walls. He could hear Sophia's laughter behind him, growing louder with every step. The corridor twisted and turned, leading him deeper into the heart of the building. Suddenly, Brandon saw a sign. "Emergency exit." His heart leapt with hope as he burst through the door and found himself in a stairwell. He took the stairs two at a time, his legs pumping with exhaustion. As he reached the bottom, he pushed open the door and stumbled out into the night air. He found himself in a deserted alleyway, the only sound the distant hum of traffic. Brandon didn't stop running until he reached the street, gasping for breath. He looked back, expecting to see Sophia emerging from the alleyway. But there was no one. For a moment, Brandon thought he'd escaped. Then, he heard the whisper in his ear. "You'll never be free." Brandon spun around, but there was no one there. The whisper seemed to come from all around him, echoing off the buildings. He took off in a sprint, weaving through the crowded streets, desperate to lose the feeling of being watched. But no matter how fast he ran, the whisper grew louder, more urgent. "You'll never be free." Suddenly, Brandon stumbled into a dead-end alley. He turned to face the voice, his heart pounding in his chest. And that's when he saw her. Sophia stood before him, her eyes blazing with an otherworldly intensity. "You can't escape me, Brandon," she hissed. "I'm inside your mind." Brandon's eyes widened as Sophia's form began to shift, her body contorting in ways that defied human physics. Brandon's mind reeled as Sophia's presence invaded his thoughts. He tried to push her out, but she was everywhere, her voice echoing in his skull. With a surge of adrenaline, Brandon focused all his energy on resisting Sophia's control. He pictured a mental shield, a barrier between his thoughts and hers. Sophia's laughter grew louder, more manic, as she sensed Brandon's resistance. She hurled herself against his mental shield, trying to shatter it. Brandon gritted his teeth, his mind racing with fear. He knew he couldn't hold out for much longer. Just as Sophia's presence seemed about to overwhelm him, Brandon remembered a phrase from his research. The power of the mind is stronger than any darkness. With newfound determination, Brandon channeled his energy into the shield, reinforcing it with every ounce of willpower he possessed. Sophia's laughter faltered, her presence wavering. As Brandon's mental shield held strong, Sophia's presence began to recede. But just as he thought he'd won, a voice whispered in his ear. "You'll never understand the true source of my power." Brandon spun around, but Sophia was gone. In her place stood an ancient figure, its eyes glowing with an otherworldly energy. "I am the one who has manipulated Sophia from the shadows," the figure revealed. "And you, Brandon, are the key to unlocking my ultimate goal." Brandon's mind reeled as the figure began to explain. "Sophia's powers are mere echoes of mine. I have manipulated events from the beginning, using her to bring you to this point." The figure's true identity and purpose stunned Brandon. "I am the architect of this reality, and you, Brandon, are the chosen one, destined to unlock the secrets of the universe." As Brandon struggled to comprehend the figure's words, the air around him began to distort. The figure vanished, replaced by a gathering of ancient beings. They surrounded Brandon, their eyes burning with an ethereal intensity. "Welcome, Brandon," one of them said. "We have been waiting for you. You have a crucial role to play in the balance of our world." Brandon's mind reeled as the beings revealed their existence. A hidden world of ancient entities, each with their own agendas and motivations. Some sought to use Brandon's abilities to gain power, while others aimed to protect him from those who would exploit him. Brandon found himself at the center of a maelstrom, with ancient beings vying for control. He knew he had to navigate this treacherous landscape to uncover the truth. Brandon's gaze shifted between the ancient beings, each with their own distinct presence. He sensed a kaleidoscope of motivations, some benevolent, others sinister. One being, named Archaea, radiated warmth and wisdom. She sought to guide Brandon in understanding his role in the balance of power. Another, named Zarin, exuded an aura of cunning and ambition. He aimed to exploit Brandon's abilities for his own gain. A third, named Lyra, seemed enigmatic and detached. Her true intentions remained unclear, but her gaze held a deep sadness. As Brandon navigated this complex web of agendas, he began to realize that each being had their own vision for the future. Some sought harmony, while others desired dominance. Brandon's choices would tip the balance of power, shaping the fate of this hidden world. Brandon's curiosity led him to ask Archaea about the ancient being's past. She nodded, and a shimmering light enveloped them, transporting them to a realm beyond time. In this mystical realm, Brandon witnessed the ancient beings' origins. A primordial era where they shaped the universe. He saw their triumphs and failures, their harmony and conflicts. Archaea revealed that Zarin's ambition was rooted in ancient betrayal, while Lyra's detachment stemmed from a profound loss. The beings' motivations were complex, forged from eons of experience. Brandon began to understand the depth of their connections, the web of relationships that bound them. He saw that their agendas were not simply good or evil, but nuanced and multifaceted. As the vision faded, Brandon returned to the present, his mind reeling with the weight of the ancient beings' history. With his newfound insight, Brandon approached the ancient beings with a fresh perspective. He saw beyond their agendas, recognizing the intricate web of relationships and motivations. Zarin, sensing Brandon's changed demeanor, revealed a hidden vulnerability. Lyra, too, opened up, sharing her sorrow and loss. Archaea smiled, knowing Brandon's empathy would be crucial in the trials ahead. As Brandon formed deeper connections with the ancient beings, the balance of power began to shift. Alliances were forged and tested, and the hidden world was reshaped by Brandon's presence. However, not all beings were pleased with Brandon's growing influence. A rogue faction, led by a mysterious figure known only as the Archon, emerged to challenge Brandon's role. Brandon, accompanied by his new allies, embarked on a quest to confront the Archon. They navigated treacherous landscapes and ancient ruins, avoiding deadly traps and minions. As they approached the Archon's stronghold, Brandon sensed a dark energy emanating from within. The air grew thick with malevolent intent. Upon entering the fortress, Brandon faced the Archon. a towering figure with eyes blazing like black stars. The Archon revealed a twisted desire to reshape reality, erasing the balance of power and ruling supreme. Brandon stood firm, his empathy and understanding of the ancient being's motivations fueling his determination. He rallied his allies, and together they launched a fierce battle against the Archon's forces. As the battle raged on, Brandon glimpsed a flicker of sorrow in the Archon's eyes. He sensed a deeper pain, a wound that had driven the Archon to madness. In a flash of insight, Brandon saw the Archon's past. A brilliant being, once revered for their wisdom, but consumed by grief and anger after a catastrophic loss. They had sought to defy fate, to undo the irreparable, and in doing so, had embraced darkness. The Archon's powers, once used for creation, had become tools of destruction. Their desire for control had become an all-consuming abyss, driving them to seek domination over all. He realized that the Archon was not beyond redemption. He saw a glimmer of the being they once were, a being worthy of compassion and forgiveness. Brandon's glimpse into the Archon's past revealed a profound truth. Their darkness was born from pain, from the anguish of loss, and the desperation to undo the irreversible. This realization challenged his understanding of the ancient beings and their motivations. He saw that even the most malevolent entities were complex, multifaceted, and worthy of compassion. The Archon's darkness, though terrifying, was a symptom of a deeper wound. Brandon began to grasp the nature of the ancient beings' struggles, the burdens they carried, and the choices they made. This newfound understanding raised questions about the balance of power, the true meaning of good and evil, and the responsibility that came with his newfound influence. As news of Brandon's compassion for the Archon spread, the ancient beings were divided. Some, like Archaea, saw Henry's empathy as a beacon of hope, a chance for redemption and balance. Others, like Zarin, viewed Henry's actions as a weakness, a threat to the delicate power dynamics. They saw the Archon as a monster, beyond forgiveness. Lyra, enigmatic as ever, remained silent, her thoughts hidden behind an inscrutable mask. The ancient beings' reactions revealed their own depths, their own wounds and motivations. Brandon's empathy had unleashed a maelstrom, challenging the status quo and forcing the ancient beings to confront their own darkness. A rare celestial alignment, known as the Great Syzygy, was imminent. This event, occurring once every 1,000 years, would amplify the ancient beings' powers and reshape the hidden world's balance. As the ancient beings prepared for the Great Syzygy, Henry sensed an opportunity to unite them against a common goal. He proposed a grand ritual, harnessing the combined power of the ancient beings to create a new equilibrium. Archaea and Lyra agreed, seeing the potential for redemption and balance. Zarin, however, refused, fearing the ritual would diminish his own power. As the Great Syzygy approached, the ancient beings intensified their preparations. Archaea wove powerful spells, while Lyra forged enigmatic artifacts. Zarin, despite his refusal to participate, secretly bolstered his defenses. Brandon, meanwhile, delved into ancient texts, uncovering hidden knowledge to enhance the ritual. He discovered a crucial element. A mystical resonance, hidden within the celestial alignment, which would amplify the ritual's effects. The ancient beings' preparations revealed their true intentions. Archaea sought balance and harmony, Lyra aimed to reshape reality. Zarin planned to exploit the ritual for his own gain. Brandon's discovery of the mystical resonance changed the game. He realized that the ritual's outcome depended on who controlled the resonance. Brandon embarked on a perilous journey to claim the mystical resonance, racing against time and the ancient being's own plans. He navigated treacherous landscapes, avoiding Zarin's minions and Lyra's enigmatic guardians. As he reached the resonance's resting place, Brandon encountered an unexpected challenger. Archaea's own sister, thought to be long lost. She revealed a shocking truth. Archaea's true intention was to use the ritual to resurrect their ancient civilization, regardless of the cost. Brandon faced a heart-wrenching decision. Support Archaea's plan, potentially dooming the hidden world, or claim the resonance and risk everything to forge a new path. Brandon chose to claim the mystical resonance, determined to forge a new path. As he grasped the resonance, he felt an immense energy coursing through him. Archaea, realizing Brandon's intentions, confronted him. A fierce battle ensued, with the fate of the hidden world hanging in the balance. Brandon, harnessing the resonance's power, managed to defeat Archaea. But the victory came at a great cost. The mystical resonance, now unstable, threatened to destroy the hidden world. With time running out, Brandon made a desperate choice. He merged the resonance with his own being, becoming the key to the hidden world's survival. In the aftermath of the battle, the ancient beings were left reeling. Archaea, defeated and humbled, retreated to her realm to ponder her actions. Lyra, enigmatic as ever, vanished into the shadows, her intentions unclear. Zarin, seeing an opportunity, began to secretly gather allies, planning to exploit the hidden world's instability for his own gain. The ancient beings' reactions revealed their true characters. Archaea. Pride and ambition had clouded her judgment. Lyra. Mysterious and unpredictable, her true loyalties unknown. Zarin. Ruthless and power-hungry, willing to do whatever it takes to dominate. Meanwhile, Brandon, now merged with a mystical resonance, struggled to comprehend his new existence. As Brandon struggled to comprehend his new existence, he received a vision from the mystical resonance. He saw Sophia, trapped in a realm of eternal darkness, her soul fading. The vision revealed a shocking truth. Sophia's capture was not a coincidence, but a deliberate act by Zarin to harness her soul's power. Zarin planned to use Sophia's essence to amplify his own magic, ensuring his dominance over the hidden world. Brandon knew he had to act swiftly. He set out to gather allies, including Archaea, who sought redemption, and Lyra, whose true intentions remained unclear. Together, they embarked on a perilous quest to rescue Sophia, navigating treacherous realms and battling formidable foes. Their mission: to reach Zarin's stronghold before Sophia's soul was lost forever. Sophia's soul, trapped in the realm of eternal darkness, faced an unrelenting assault. Zarin's dark magic sought to consume her essence, erasing her identity and will. Yet, Sophia's spirit refused to yield. She drew upon her bond with Henry, their shared moments and memories, to fuel her resistance. As Zarin's magic probed her soul, Sophia envisioned Henry's determination, his unwavering commitment to save her. Her love for him became a beacon, illuminating the darkness. With each passing moment, Sophia's spirit grew stronger, her resolve to survive and reunite with Brandon burning brighter. Brandon, Archaea, and Lyra journeyed through treacherous landscapes, overcoming formidable challenges as they neared Zarin's stronghold. Their bond grew stronger, forged in the crucible of their shared quest. Archaea, seeking redemption, revealed her knowledge of Zarin's defenses, guiding the group through hidden passages. Lyra, enigmatic as ever, unleashed her mystical powers, dispelling dark illusions and clearing their path. As they approached the stronghold, Brandon sensed Sophia's presence, her spirit calling to him. With renewed determination, he led the charge, battling Zarin's minions and overcoming deadly traps. Brandon, Archaea, and Lyra launched a fierce assault on Zarin's stronghold, determined to reach Sophia. The battle raged on, with spells and swords clashing in a spectacular display of power. Brandon faced off against Zarin's most formidable minions, his own magic and combat skills honed to perfection. Archaea and Lyra fought in tandem, their synergy and trust proving unbeatable. As they breached the stronghold's inner sanctum, Henry finally faced Zarin. The dark sorcerer unleashed his full fury, but Brandon stood firm, his love for Sophia fueling his determination. The air crackled with energy as Brandon and Zarin clashed, their magic swirling in a spectacular display of light and sound. Zarin unleashed his darkest powers, summoning shadowy tendrils and malevolent entities to aid him. Brandon, undaunted, called upon the mystical resonance within him, channeling its power to fuel his own magic. The two sorcerers exchanged blows, their spells and counterspells weaving a complex dance of light and darkness. As the duel raged on, Brandon began to gain the upper hand, his connection to Sophia and the mystical resonance granting him strength and clarity. Zarin, enraged, summoned his most devastating spell yet. With a fierce cry, Brandon unleashed a blast of energy, countering Zarin's devastating spell. The two magic streams collided, creating a shockwave that shook the stronghold. As the dust settled, Brandon stood victorious, Zarin defeated at his feet. But the cost was high. The mystical resonance, exhausted, began to fade, threatening to sever Brandon's connection to Sophia. With Zarin's dark magic undone, Sophia's spirit began to stir, her essence freed from captivity. Brandon rushed to her side, embracing her as she materialized. Brandon and Sophia's embrace ignited a radiant glow, their love and joy illuminating the stronghold. Tears of happiness streaming down their faces, they shared a tender kiss, their bond stronger than ever. As they held each other, the mystical resonance's final whisper echoed in Brandon's mind. Your love is the true magic, Brandon, cherish it, and it shall guide you through the trials to come. With Zarin defeated and the dark magic undone, the stronghold began to crumble, its secrets and mysteries lost to the ages. Brandon and Sophia, hand in hand, walked away from the ruins, ready to face a brighter future together.